Please read the disclaimer. I saw a headline a few hours ago, and once I read it, things started to click for me. I started understanding things that maybe this could all be happening in the crypto market because of a specific reason. I'm going to elaborate on this reason and what is potentially happening. I think if you saw the thumbnail, you already kind of know what it is about. So let's get straight into it. Currently, we are looking at a situation where this was the headline, okay? Iran offers to sell advanced systems, right? I don't know about this word and what the thingamajig will do here, but ballistic missiles, drones, and warships to foreign governments for crypto, right? According to the Financial Times. Now, this could be Bitcoin, XRP, whatever the Iranian government currently wants. Now, if you don't know, the current situation in Iran is very combustible. There are protests going on all around the country. Their economic situation is in a big pickle. Their Fed chairman just quit, and their money, which we'll get to in just a second, just hit its lowest point ever to the US dollar, right? And when you have situations like this is one of the reasons why we think, wow, right? If I was now living in Iran, they wouldn't let me in, but but if, let's say, theoretically, I would have wanted to have a big crypto portfolio because of the instability of my currency. Now, most of the people that watch this channel are from the US and the UK, and you might be saying to yourself, well, Avi, that is not going to happen in the US or the UK or Australia, but it could. And it might. And so we have to remember that, and we have to plan for our financial futures, right? And so if we go and we ask any AI, probably I just asked the Gemini here, and I said, what is the current situation regarding crypto in Iran? And it answered here, the situation of cryptocurrency in Iran as of January 2026 is characterized by a survival economy where the state and citizens increasingly turn to digital assets despite and often because extreme domestic instability and tightening government control. I don't know if you know, but they have had a shortage of water. They've had problems with electricity. And of course, they have sanctions. Of course, they had a 12-day war with Israel, and all this is happening. And there's headlines that they're creating more ballistic missiles. I don't know if you remember, but a ballistic missile fell like 500 meters from me. So I have, a pickle with the Ayatollah regime that they're firing ballistic missiles at me. But I would be happy if they would fall and there would be no more shenanigans, right? No more conflicts. But they came out with headlines that they were creating more missiles. And all this is happening where the Iranian people, right, the Persians, they are in a very dire situation, right? Their economy is collapsing. There's a big water shortage. And we're in a situation where the most critical development at the turn of this year is the historic collapse of the Iranian rial, which hit a record low of 1.42 million per USD in late December. This has triggered a massive surge in local interest in Bitcoin and Tether and hedges against total fiat failure. And this has also created the widespread protests that are happening in the country. And this all is happening, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, I see this headline, right? And I see this, and I remember that when we had the first missile strike, I don't know if you remember this because I experienced it, but there was the first missile strike that Iran did on Israel, and it took like 5 or 6 hours. They'd use these very slow missiles. It wasn't ballistic missiles. And so everybody knew that it was coming, right? I was out with my kids and with my son's friend. We were out, playing soccer or whatever, basketball, and suddenly I was on my phone and I saw the market starting to collapse. And I had positions open, I had leverage positions open. I was like, oh, what is going on? And there was no headlines. There was no headlines here on the websites either. And I was like, why is the market selling off like this? And then about 10, 15 minutes later, all the headlines started happening. Twitter started happening. So my theory was at the time that the Iranians had shorted the crypto market, right? Because they knew that they were going to do this. The crypto market started falling because of the news that started coming out, but it already started falling before that. And then by the time, of course, the prices came up like the day or so after, but there was big fear that we were going to WW3 and it was the end of the world and yada, 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 right? But that didn't happen. So I think that they made a significant amount of money, the Iranian government, on that day, right? And so thinking forward, I think they and others got a taste of that, saw how the crypto market could be manipulated by these big geopolitical headlines, right? And how these governments that are sanctioned from the world, are sanctioned from the dollar, are sanctioned from other countries' fiat. Maybe Iran has, a few friends. For the most part, they don't have many friends out there. And so they are in a tricky situation. Now, it could be that that's what triggered October 10th, right? You had a situation where Trump came out with that big headline, and it could have been that it was countries that were doing this shenanigans behind the scene and causing this to happen. Now, what happened after that, we'll leave it to that. But I think what's going on right now is, on the flip side, maybe the Iranian government was manipulating the prices in previous geopolitical events, but now the Iranian people could potentially be trying to accumulate as much crypto as they can, because if there is a collapse, they don't know what's going to happen to the real. If there is a revolution, if something happens, maybe the money changes, maybe you don't know what's going to happen. Story time. My family, originally on my mother's side, came to the US from somewhere in Europe, right? And they, the father, right, the grandfather, great grandfather, it was somewhere in, I think, Poland, and he traveled around. He ended up in some rich Jew house, right? And they were so rich, and he was working like a stable boy, and he fell in love with the lady of the manor, like the girl, right? Um, he got an opportunity. He went to the U.S. It came back after World War I, and the Polish money had totally collapsed. And the family, they hadn't had money in the banks. They were saving money like in the chests or whatever. And the money became worthless. And suddenly she was poor. And then he was able to come back and convince her that he had money from the US, and she came with him to the US, right? So, so why am I telling this story? Because you don't know what's going to happen after a revolution, after a war, after things change over, what's going to happen. We know that the crypto market is something that is giving us a global hedge. It's giving us something that the whole world can invest in, the whole world can use, and not just that specific country. So I think that in a situation like this, where the Iranian people know a lot about crypto, the Iranian government is doing manipulations on the crypto market, maybe we could see this kind of trigger what's happening now. Now, if I look at what's happening with the prices, and we look at where XRP is and where the rest of the crypto market is, there is an interesting pop here of about 10 to 20% on some assets here today. And this will be very interesting to see if this is what fuels maybe the next coming weeks here. Is the current situation in Iran, if it gets even worse, and maybe this has effect on other countries where people that maybe there's instability in their countries, they say to themselves, well, we could have crazy inflation. And before that happens, let me see if I can, peg myself to the dollar, or if I can, get into the crypto market. And so this is a very interesting situation that's developing. And it's another thing that reminds us that crypto is international. Crypto is not just what's happening in the US, but it's actually what's happening in all of the world. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in the next coming days. As always, this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to check out the links in the description down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.